Welcome to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. YFAC provides any and all types of support for victims of interpersonal crime in Yavapai County. So today we're going to talk about volunteering and volunteering, the benefits that volunteering has for society, for our community, for individuals themselves, and also for organizations. And of course, specifically, I'd like to talk about the benefits that volunteers provide to my organization, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. When you look around town, particularly here in Yavapai County, because we're so interconnected and involved and have so many wonderful community events, I don't know that people really recognize that many of those individuals working at those events are volunteers, and how critical that is for those events to be able to take place. My organization participates in about 8 to 10 large community events per year, and it would be impossible for us or any of our partner nonprofits around this county to be able to do that if we didn't have individuals who were willing and able and eager to give their time to assist us in our mission. The other thing that volunteering does for our community is I always like to say that our community, our society is only as healthy as our most vulnerable or weakest individuals. And when you volunteer for organizations such as YFAC, what you're doing is you're learning about them, you're building a passion for them and an understanding for who we are and the population that we serve and why it's so critical that we do what we do. And when you build that passion, you are spreading that passion in our communities. You're teaching that to your social network, to your friends, to your family, because you're starting to gain that same excitement and that same sense of accomplishment that we have in the work that we do. And so by doing that, what that does is that really kind of infects our whole community with that energy, with that purpose and that drive to help people who are less fortunate, to help people who are in a vulnerable space in their life. And I feel like it is so powerful and meaningful. And once you do it, it's something that you really can't quit. I grew up in Payson, Arizona, so it's another small town similar to this community. And my father was in law enforcement and we owned a local business. And my father taught us, from the time we were really little, that getting involved in our community and volunteering was so important. And so as a person who's volunteered with many agencies, many different things, many different genres or fields over my lifetime for the last 50 years, it has always given me such a great sense of accomplishment and a great sense of purpose in what I do. And I hear that from the volunteers that come to our center. So the reason why I wanted to talk about volunteering today specifically is that I know for our center and for many of the other nonprofits that I am in contact with around our community, the pandemic just really devastated our volunteer pool. We had many people who, because of social isolation issues, weren't able to volunteer. Because of health issues or health concerns, were afraid to volunteer. And, those people that did volunteer still were really drained because they were now having to help organizations that were losing staff members, losing other volunteers, kind of make up that difference. And so we wore those people out too, for the most part. And that's just, it's a fallout that we're still seeing a couple years later. And it continues to be getting, unfortunately, worse for all of the places in our community that rely so heavily on this amazing resource. Another thing for nonprofits that's critical in regards to volunteering is funding. So, all nonprofits, it's going to come down to funding. When your business isn't retail, when you're not being paid for your service or, gaining profits from selling things, all you're doing is finding other ways to bring money in so you can put it out through service. And that's hard. It's a really hard thing to do. And funding has depleted and gone down since the pandemic. And so volunteers play such a critical role in that because they come in and they allow us to fill, mission critical positions or jobs or tasks or special projects that we've lost the funding to pay a staff member to do. And that's just so important. At my center, we have a beautiful entry garden. It's just gorgeous, but it is continually getting overgrown, overburdened with weeds, things like that. Sprinkler systems are going out. And, prior to the pandemic, we had a couple volunteers and that's what they did. They came to my center and they took care of my garden. And it was so amazing. And now, I have my staff and we have a schedule and we barely maintain going out there and watering stuff when we need to. And, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in a place like the Advocacy Center where the atmosphere and the safety and the feeling of comfort is so critical for for the victims of crimes that come to our center, that entry garden is really important. It's a peaceful place. It's a safe place. It's got a gate. It's a place where they can go and kind of feel at ease or feel some sense of comfort in being alone in a natural place and starting the process for their healing from whatever's happened to them. We had a handyman that volunteered for us and did things around the building, and I can't find a grant that's going to pay for a handyman. So, when we lost him, we're taking dollars out of our programs in order to just pay for basic maintenance things around our center to make sure that it's still functionable. It's an old, crazy building and we love it, but, things go down all the time. We don't have a receptionist or at our center to answer the door or answer the phones. We rely on volunteers for that. Prior to the pandemic, I think we had volunteers about 28 to 32 hours a week covering that position for us. And now we're lucky if we have about 8 to 10 hours a week. So that's critical. That means we're each getting up or the phone's going unanswered and rolling to voicemail. And that might be a person that is in distress at that moment and needs a person to talk to. So there's just so many things about it. As far as funding, I don't know that people understand this, but when you apply for grants as a nonprofit at the federal level, state level, or through private grants, they want to see that you have community and support. They want to see that you have community involvement. So they always ask for a match in the amount of money that you're applying for. Usually it's a 75-25 split or an 80-20 split. So if you're saying it costs $100 to fund a program, and you're asking them to help you fund it, they're going to say, okay, well, we'll give you 80% of that if you can show us that you have investment from your community for 20% of it. So do you have $20 donated to your center? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And of course, this is it's a larger scale. I mean, we could be saying, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. But when those volunteers come to our center and volunteer their time for us, grantors recognize that is also a valuable service. So we are allowed to say we have, 100 hours of volunteer time at $20 an hour. That's what it would cost us to pay a staff member or somebody to do that task. And so we can actually use that on that grant in regards to that 20% match. And that is so, so important for us. That's showing the people who are thinking about giving us the grant and investing us that our community supports us, they care about us, and that they're willing to give their time to our center. The other thing that we always, I think, forget to talk about when we're trying to recruit volunteers is the benefit to them. There is national research from the health department that shows that 77% of people who volunteer for nonprofits in their community report improved mental health, which is huge. 53% of individuals who volunteer for nonprofits in their community report improved physical health. So it's a way for volunteers to stay active, stay connected. I know I'm not far away from retirement at my age, but I have a lot of friends and family members that are retired, and it's really easy to kind of get in that rut, in that routine of this is what I do at home. This is when I leave my home a couple times a week. This is when I get back home. And that can have, some impacts of isolation and social disconnection. So when you're volunteering, it allows you to build friendships, to build on your social network, to develop skills that maybe you didn't have before, to find purpose, to use your creativity. Maybe in your job you weren't doing a job that allowed you to use your creativity, but you really have that side of you that you want to explore. You can do that in volunteer positions with agencies. It's a way to connect. It's a way to build empathy. I still always say that our community is not aware of how prevalent victimization is. And, it's such a downer to talk about, and I don't like talking about it with people in the way that a lot of advocacy centers do. Bad things happen. We know bad things happen. Let's talk about the great response that we can provide to those people. Let's talk about them healing after trauma. Rather than post-traumatic stress disorder, let's talk about post-traumatic support, post-traumatic healing, post-traumatic growth. Those are things that our center provides, and we couldn't do it without the volunteers that help us. Specifically to my organization, the benefits that volunteers bring to us are so huge. They help us fulfill our mission statement, and that's critical to the work that we do. They fill really, really critical gaps in our day-to-day routine that I don't have the staff to do, or staff are leaving other critical issues to come and take care of this because it has to be done in this moment. They help us maintain the facility, as I said, and that's so important. We're housed in the old Prescott Valley Library. It's a beautiful building, but there's just things there that we just continue to have to do maintenance and upkeep on. They help us develop new programs. If it weren't for volunteers, a lot of our special projects wouldn't happen. And that's so important for us. Our things like our Domestic Violence Awareness Month, our Sexual Assault Awareness Month, our Child Abuse Awareness Month event, our annual fundraiser, which is coming up in the fall. Years ago, I had a team of volunteers. It was completely run by volunteers. And it was a wonderful, huge event then. And after COVID, we have like 2 volunteers now that help with it, and the rest of it is staff. So again, it's not what it could be if we had that community involvement, that community participation. And so I just really want to urge you, if it's not for the Advocacy Center, then please just do some research, find a nonprofit here in our community or an organization that accepts volunteers, and look at some opportunities for yourself for growth. An area that we're really hoping to expand on is recruiting young volunteers also. If going into the fields of criminal justice, social work, counseling or therapy, even education, if any of those things are where a young adult is interested in possibly learning more, volunteering at our center is a perfect opportunity to really gain more knowledge on that and how it works and how the system works and how all of the agencies kind of coordinate and work together. And we love that. We love having those people in the building. And, we have children in the building quite a bit that we have volunteers sit with and help play with in our gorgeous, beautiful playroom. And that always seems to be the one thing that volunteers love doing is playing with kids. So we love volunteers that want to help us just with that task. But usually once they come in the door to do that, then they're like, well, wait a minute, what else can I do? Well, wait a minute, how else do I help? Because it's infectious. What we do is infectious, and they just want to be more and more involved. So if anybody out there is interested in learning more about volunteering with the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center, you can go to our website at yfac.org. And there is an application on there. It's pretty quick, pretty short, that you just fill out and hit submit. It will send an email to our volunteer coordinator, and then she will reach out and invite you to come to the center to take a tour, to meet us, to hear a little bit more about what we do, and then we'll take the next steps. We will do a background check and get you cleared, and immediately have you come in and start helping us and finding ways that you can help us, but that benefit you as well. And with that, I just want to say thanks so much for listening. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to people about these things that are so critical to my center, and I believe are critical to our town and our community. Volunteers are so important to our community, to our town, and to our center, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. They are a critical part of helping us fulfill our mission and do the great work that we do. Thank you for tuning in to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us online at yfac.org or call us at 928-775-0669. Start Healing with YFAC is proud to be on Cast 11, Prescott's podcast network. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.